To have all of you here today. I'm joined by our council president, Amanda Guadagnino, and Councilman Ralph Andrews. And on this day, when we commemorate the 75th anniversary of D-Day and the immense commitment of past generations and what they've given us, it's quite an honor to welcome to North Brunswick Governor Murphy to talk about the state's commitment to early childhood education, which means so much to everyone in this state. And our town is very glad to have you here, Governor, for that purpose. So I would like to introduce an assistant teacher here at the Learning Center, Yesenia Manriquez.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yesenia Manriquez, and I currently work as an assistant teacher here at Asst Learning. I am the proud mother of a 5-year-old named Alexander, who attended Asst for 2 years. As a mother, it was amazing to have the opportunity to send my child to preschool. I know firsthand by watching my son that pre-K makes a real difference in the lives of children. He's in kindergarten now, and I'm proud to say that he is thriving, even learning how to read. During my child's first year of preschool, I started a job here as a clerk and joined the Asst team. It was my first time working in a school setting, but I came to appreciate on a new level how much teachers impact all of our children's lives and how much love and patience it takes to work with every single child. I watched how much our kids learn every day and how much they grow throughout the years. It's amazing to see and be a part of how they evolve as a person. At the time I was in school pursuing a business major, my experience at Asst made me want to change my career path and be a part of the inspiring work with young children I was seeing every day. I took the necessary certifications and became an assistant teacher. It makes me proud to know that I am making a big impact on my students and know that I am helping them prepare for their future, just like the Asst teachers did with Alexander. I am currently still pursuing my degree, but I can't wait until I get to be a head teacher of a preschool class one day and continue doing the work that I love, work that I know that makes a difference. I would like to take a moment to personally thank Governor Murphy and the Commissioner of Education, Lamont Ripollet, for making early education a priority and making these critical investments in young learners. In the end, their education is all that matters. Now, it is with my great pleasure that I introduce the Governor of New Jersey, Bill Murphy.
Thank you, Yesenia. Thank you so much. Wow. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Pardon me. Thank you. Let's hear it for Yesenia again. Congratulations. Really well done. Thank you for your introduction and for all you and your fellow educators and team here are doing every day to prepare our youngest learners for a lifetime of curiosity and academic excellence. Yesenia, as you mentioned, it is to you and your fellow educators credit that your own child, as you mentioned, attended Asst Learning. It is always a sign that a school is providing an outstanding education when its teachers want their own children to attend the school where they work. And again, to you, your fellow educators, to the leadership team at Asst, hats off to each and every one of you. I also want to thank a very good friend, one of the first guys I met when it was cold, dark, and lonely, Mayor Mac Womack, for his warm welcome to North Brunswick. Mac, thank you as always. Council President, Councilman, honored to be with you again as well. A real treat. Superintendent Brian Zakowski to my right. Brian, always and also a pleasure. Obviously, I got to thank the outstanding kids here today who just lit us up really well in a couple of classrooms. I'm also honored to be joined today by the Commissioner of Department of Education, Dr. Lamont Ripollet. Thrilled to have you with us as well, and more on that man in a minute. Mac mentioned this, but I just came from a very emotional commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landing, and it was pretty moving, and there were a dozen or so World War II veterans. Sadly, I read this morning only 3% of the 155,000 people who stormed the beaches that day, only 3% are still alive. Some of them, my family and I visited Normandy 7 years ago. I think it was one of the most moving visits we've ever had. Many of them lost their lives that day, but others have grown up and grown old, and we're doing everything we can to take care of our veterans. But it's an extraordinary day to commemorate and remember June 6, 1944. Having served as the U.S. ambassador to the Federal Republic of Germany and having lived in Germany twice, but as ambassador having served and lived in Berlin, it's extraordinary that between June 6, 1944, not quite 11 months later, May 8, 1945, was Victory Europe, or VE Day. So we salute, as Max said, the greatest generation, those who gave their lives, those who never came back, those who grew up and grew old, and most importantly, those who are still with us. So back to why we're here today. What we're seeing here in North Brunswick is pre-K being taken to the next level because of the partnership among the school district, Head Start, and the state. Partnerships like this are how we can ensure that pre-K works for every child. This is pre-K that will start every child on a path to a lifetime of curiosity and learning, in which ensures that they won't just be observers, but thinkers and doers. North Brunswick is one of, I think, Lamont's 64 school districts we invested in this year to help grow the promise of pre-K, many of which are receiving funds for the first time. And I'm proud of the nearly $930,000 we were able to put toward these kids' future in this school year, and I'm even more proud of the nearly $2.8 million we look forward to provide for the upcoming one in this very community. In the upcoming 2019-2020 school year, we will make, based on our budget, an overall state investment in pre-K of $806.5 million. In just our administration's first 2 years, we will have increased aid for pre-K by roughly $150 million. That is more than a 20% increase in just 2 years. We do not want this progress to stop, and that's an important point to make. We need to ensure that the revenues needed to live up to our long-standing promise of making pre-K available to every child. The best and most effective way to do this is through tax fairness, so we can use the proceeds, in particular of the millionaire's tax, to lift up every child and set them on a course for a strong future. But at the same time, this is much more than just money. It's also about ensuring that we have the people working alongside our district so that these dollars are invested properly and to their maximum potential. That is why, to the gentleman to my far left, that is why I'm proud to announce that we will be creating a division of early childhood education within the Department of Education. This new division will be led by none other than Carrie Booker, who is with us today to focus on this critical issue. Carrie has advised us and me personally on education, particularly in the math area, for 3 years and brings an essential perspective to the job. Carrie actually started his career in higher education, so he understands better than anyone how much influence a child's first few years of life will have on his or her potential later on. Carrie's commitment to public education comes without qualification, and I know he'll bring his customary enthusiasm and visionary leadership skills to this new role. In case you're wondering, he will serve in this new role until his brother is elected president of the United States. Just got to get that in there. Had to pave the way for my trip to Iowa next week. Make sure Corey heard me throw that out. It will be his job and the job of those at this new division to ensure the return on investment that we know strong pre-K can deliver. The National Forum on Early Childhood Policy and Programs has estimated that for every dollar we invest in a child at the very beginning of their educational life, we recoup up to $9 in overall return as they grow. Every dollar we invest in pre-K helps make New Jersey a more affordable place for our diverse middle class and working families like those right here, Mac in North Brunswick, to raise their families. Investments in our youngest learners are investments in the middle class. Expanding access to programs like preschool through a true millionaire's tax is one common sense way to level the playing field and set these children up for success. And if you haven't noted, the diversity of the young kids that we just spent some time with screams out at you. Bless their hearts. We know now that increasing the general knowledge and vocabulary of a child before they enter first grade is the single highest correlate with later success. But we can't wait till kindergarten to address the deficiencies with which many children arrive. Investing in pre-K is how we keep New Jersey a national leader in education. And it starts here in North Brunswick and places like it by building stronger foundations for lifelong learning. And it includes people like Carrie and Commissioner Repollet to provide the caring and focused state leadership our children deserve. This is a mission I know we share with our state legislature. Particularly, I want to give a couple of shout outs to Senator Teresa Ruiz and Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter, whose strong support for focused attention and advocacy for early childhood education has been a constant reminder of how important this initiative is. It is now my pleasure to introduce my partner in ensuring a bright start for all New Jersey school children, our Commissioner of Education, the one, the singular, Dr. Lamont Repollet.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here with Governor Murphy, Mayor Mac Womack, Superintendent and my buddy Brian Zakowski, Ms. Yesenia Manriquez, and other local officials and school board members to highlight our administration's investment in North Brunswick preschool education. The Township School District will receive, as Governor said, $2.8 million in preschool aid in the proposed fiscal budget 2020, a 203% increase over last year's amount, with the addition of 220 general education for 4-year-old children now able to attend full-day preschool in North Brunswick. The program will double in size, which is a win for our kids, parents, educators, and this great community. Overall, our administration's proposal to increase funding for preschool programs by $68 million, bringing the total funding, as Governor said, for preschool aid to a record $806.5 million for the proposed FY 2020 budget. Education has been one of the hallmarks of this administration, and we will remain committed to educating our children from birth through teen years and beyond. As a result, today we're happy to announce the creation of the Department of Education's new Division of Early Childhood Education, which will be directed by Carrie Booker, currently a senior policy advisor in the governor's office. Elevating early childhood to its own division will provide greater resources in our campaign to improve and expand preschool programming for more children throughout the state of New Jersey. We are proud to be a national leader in serving our youngest residents. High-quality early childhood education is not a buzzword to us. We live these values every day. Examples of this include preschool class sizes, small, where the ratio is 2 adults to 15 children. By taking a whole child approach, we involve preschool parents so that they can support children, in particular those exhibiting challenging behaviors at home. We also build coaching into the preschool budget so that experienced educators can support new educators with their methods. Not only are we focusing on each child's early academic success, but their social and emotional well-being as well. The Garden State is home to more than 500,000 children under the age of 5. Research tells us that by age 5, even before starting a formal K-12 education, 90% of our child's brains has already been developed. Recognizing the opportunity and importance of these pivotal early years, we're excited to take steps to expand and strengthen multiple levels of our early childhood education system. Our work in early education includes support for children from birth through grade 3. That means that infant and toddlers early care programs, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and 1st through 3rd grade programs all link together to create strong transitions that solidify the critical foundation for early success in a child's education. To have one with the other leads us to weaker outcomes for the upper elementary, middle, and high school students we serve. To help our youngest children get a safe and healthy start, the DOE partners with our state-level sister agencies, such as Department of Children and Families, Health, Human Services, and Labor. We also have a federal Head Start collaboration housed at the New Jersey Council for Young Children. These dedicated teams serve children and their families from birth to pre-K and help to make sure that our children get a good start preparing for kindergarten. Early childhood education also encompasses student learning and developing in kindergarten through grade 3. We have strengthened our commitment to these children and educators and have created a specific Office of Kindergarten to Grade 3. We are increasing the academic and developmental support for our children by creating new resources and working closely with educators and school leaders throughout the district and across the state. All these actions will pave the way for each and every child to achieve academic success. I'd now like to introduce Carrie to say a few words about preschool education in New Jersey. Please help me welcome Carrie Booker.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Governor. It has been a real honor to work on the Governor's team to bring to life the vision that he has for New Jersey. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining such an outstanding leader in Commissioner Repollet and such a very, very talented team at the DOE to focus on this signature part of the Governor's vision and lead the new Division of Early Childhood Education. As Acting Assistant Commissioner for the agency's new Division of Early Childhood Education, I welcome the opportunity to focus on deepening the impact of preschool education in New Jersey. For more than 30 years, New Jersey has been a national leader in early childhood education. We were the first to require preschool for all young children in high poverty communities. And since Governor Murphy has taken office, we've worked to expand access to high-quality preschool to more children across the state. The team at the Division of Early Childhood Education is focused on strengthening the quality of current programs, including ensuring there are developmentally appropriate policies and practices in place. Research on the efficacy of early childhood education has proved over and over and over again that the more information children learn early on, the more productive and successful they'll be as adults. The preschool helps level up and level the playing field for all students. If a child starts reading and learning basic skills earlier, they will be on track with their peers rather than fall behind. We know that every dollar that we invest in high-quality early education programs will return to us as taxpayers $7 in taxpayer investment. It will also return to us increased high school graduation rates and lower incarceration rates and lower incidences of teenage pregnancy. Kids who are educated at an early age socialize with people other than their families, learn how to respect adults and peers, understand the value of cooperation and teamwork, are exposed to different cultures and beliefs, and gain self-esteem in the process. Investing in a stronger and fairer New Jersey means ensuring that each child reaches their full potential. My goal is to make sure we don't let kids slip through the cracks as they transition between early childhood education and kindergarten, between elementary and high school, and between secondary and post-secondary experiences. And as we all know in this room, all of that starts early on. I'm excited to continue the great work that Commissioner Repollet has already put in place, and I look forward to what is to come. Thank you.
Good job, man. Well done. Congratulations again, Carrie. And I just, before I invite Brian up, just to reiterate a point that we've all made here. Education dollars spent across the whole spectrum change people's lives. At the higher ed end of the spectrum, where we've got a hugely successful and popular community college opportunity grant program, if you're 18 years old or you're 30 or 40, 50, 60, and if you haven't been to a community college lately, it's a rainbow in terms of not just diversity, but also age diversity. You know the ability when you otherwise couldn't have gone to community college. You know yourself that your life's been changed. These little kids probably don't know that their lives are being changed. They don't understand it yet. They're 3 or 4 years old. But the payoff, Carrie said it, Lamont said it, I'll repeat it, Max sees it in North Brunswick, and I know the superintendent and Jacinia lives it. The payoff is overwhelming. The life-changing reality of this relatively, in the overall scheme of things, modest investment is changing lives almost unlike any other dollar we can invest, not just in education, but anywhere across our budget. With that, North Brunswick is a great example of a community that's well run and a school system that's also exceptionally well run. And that begins with educators, senior staff. It begins with administrators. It certainly includes extraordinary, precious kids, but it also begins with the boss. So it's my honor to bring up Superintendent of Schools here in town, Dr. Brian Sikowski. Brian?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Sikowski. I'm a Superintendent of Schools, and the governor's folks had asked me to close today. But I have to say, Governor, we can't close because we're just beginning. Your work, it allows us to have really a beginning. And I want to thank you for not only having a vision of early childhood, but giving us a vehicle to operationalize. And I turn to the commissioner. I want to thank you for hiring a commissioner that's a practitioner, was a practitioner, is a practitioner. He's working with our folks. Every one of his staff, when they come to North Brunswick, they are there as a resource helping us. So, Dr. Rebollet, I want to say thank you, and thank you to your staff for working with us to operationalize not only this vision and the funding of it, but how to make sure it reaches the children. I want to thank the mayor and council for working with, we have here today our board president, Gloria Gonzalez, and a board member, Clarabelle Cortez. I want to thank you for working with us, supporting us, because they have challenged me and said, look, we have a strategy, equity and access. We have a very diverse community. Well, that's not easy. It's hard to operationalize something like that unless you have everybody going in the same direction. So Gloria, Clarabelle, and my fellow board members, thank you for supporting our goal of equity access, and it begins with 3- and 4-year-olds, and it begins with having a vision from the governor's office all the way through the Commissioner of Education. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our county superintendent here, Kyle Anderson. He has come in and he has done nothing but supportive from a viewpoint of the business standpoint, from the educators. He listens, supports, and carries out the mission of the Department of Education. So we are blessed here in North Brunswick to have people with vision, but also be able to sustain the investment and operationalizing that wonderful investment to make sure equity and access is taking place here at North Brunswick, and we are going to close achievement gaps, one of our timely and timeless goals here. So with that, I want to wish everyone, thank you once again for coming, and wish everyone a great day.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
Great job, Brian. Thank you. You know, Brian said it more eloquently than I, and forgive me for not acknowledging the board members. This is one of these things, I say this a lot, but it's true. It takes a village. So you need a state team, but you need a local team, not just in the mayor and council, but local board. You need county help. You need a super. You now need a specific department that's laser focused on this. You need great educators. You need all of us. And with all of that and with the right funding, we could change people's lives. My mother was not quite Howard Hughes, but she was a germophobic, so I've been staring out at the disinfectant dispenser out there. Also want to make sure everybody knows that Asst is really working well in that respect as well. And I promise you on the way out I'm going to partake in one of your dispensers before I leave here. So we're sad to see Lynn Tatt's last day is today, sadly, although she's going on to big, bright things in California. So Lynn, we thank you for your fierce journalism and fierce reporting. And as an homage to your last day, would give you the chance, if you've got a question, to ask the first question.
Thank you, Governor. I do.
I was hoping you'd say, no, you're all set.
What would you say to people who, they might say, sure, pre-K is great, early childhood is great, but given the state's limited resources, we should be making sure that we fund K-12 first, as opposed to early childhood ed.
So the answer I would give, Lynn, is a little bit of what I just said a minute ago. All education dollars change people's lives. No dollars change them more than the pre-K dollars. So an increase of $68 million in a $38 billion budget is a relatively modest investment given the payback that we get. But I'd add to that, we're doing both. We have to be able to walk and chew gum in a government as large as ours. Last year we put in a historic increase in K through 12 funding. And remember, we inherited a state that had underfunded the school funding formula by over $9 billion. We put another huge slug in our proposed budget this year. More money into computer science for all, apprenticeship programs, and then you didn't ask about higher ed, more money into community colleges, tuition assistance grants, educational opportunity funds. We know all of that gives us a payback and changes people's lives. We can't do one at the expense of the other. We've got to do it all, and this is part of a broader strategy to do just that. Please.
Governor, okay, so pre-K, obviously very important. Extra money being added to the budget.
Yep.
What is this division going to do differently or in addition to? In other words, how is it going to benefit these kids and what you're trying to accomplish versus what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Could you give a couple of specific
Yeah, I'm going to give you a generic answer, and then I'll ask Lamont or Carrie to come up and give you a specific. I'm a big believer in laser focus gives you better results. So if you put a fine point and a fine, crisp definition around some objective policy or department or otherwise, and you give someone, as we are with Carrie, the explicit responsibility to lead that, I've always found you get X% better results. You get people invested deeply. This is my thing, our thing. The impression that answer might leave is that we're not already doing a good job and that Lamont already doesn't have quality people focused on it. He does, but I'm a big believer. You put definition, you give someone an explicit responsibility, you get better results. Would you want to say anything to that? Or?
I think the governor's exactly right. Prioritization is important. Currently, it sits in the Division of Academic Performance. In Division of Academic Performance, we have assessments, we have CTE, so we have a number of major items that we need to work on. So we found that over the past year with the expansion of pre-K, which is it's amazing. We're one of the leaders in the country, if not the leader. It's important, as the governor said, to have that focus. We get a lot of inquiries from legislators, from municipalities about how can they get involved in this program. And we actually need someone to actually lead that. We have Tanya Costin, our Deputy Assistant Commissioner, but she needs assistance, she needs help. And Carrie Booker is the person that's going to help lead us to where the governor's initiative of ensuring that all students have high quality early childhood.
Go ahead, sure. Thank you.
And also, I think it's important to remember that early childhood education is unique in that there are multiple departments within government that touch on this field. And so it's important to bring the focus together, to help work to coordinate with other departments and to get this work out the door and focused and get the support to school districts that they need.
I just add one other thing. The reason to do this being expanding pre-K is to change the lives of those little kids. Again, an extraordinarily diverse community and represented by the kids at Asst here. It's also part of our strategy to enhance and bolster the magnet that attracts families to either come here in the first place or to stay here. It is not unrelated to that. It's not unrelated to our objectives to make New Jersey, if you've got kids and you want them educated, to be the state of choice. Others, anybody?
Sure.
Brenda, hold on. We got an arm. Brenda, I'll go 1, 2, please.
Yesterday, I'm sure you're with the Select Oversight Committee, issued a report on Katie Brennan.
Yes.
And the overwhelming theme of this was that it was not the system that failed her, but rather individual people. There was a question where Senator Weinberg essentially said that it's up to the governor's office to deal with these individuals in terms of consequences. And Katie Brennan also put out a statement saying that there were people who were quote unquote complicit and that she would hope that you would hold them to account. How do you respond?
So I have to say we are still going through the full report, so I'm not yet qualified to answer specifics about the entirety of the report. But I would reiterate, sort of, if we step back, we took this and we take this deadly seriously. And in fact, the minute I found out about this, as you'll recall, we started on our own right 3 individual processes that have now come to conclusion. One is led by the former Supreme Court Justice Peter Venero. That was in the category of what the heck happened. And he, I think, did an outstanding job with some tough medicine, frankly, particularly with recommendations on how we can improve the systems and learn from weaknesses. The second process was led by our chief EEO officer, Mamta Patel, which was much more focused on state government policies. And I myself had questioned why things like pre-existing incidents couldn't have an impact on someone's status in state government. So Mamta's now put forward a review of those policies. And then the most holistic of our three processes, the broadest one was led by the Attorney General with an objective to, if you're going to go through an awful experience like this as a survivor, as my very personal, as I've spoken before, as my wife did in her own life story, let's make New Jersey the number one in the American class in terms of what's there for you, resources, information, that we are as survivor-centric as any American state. So it's what happened and what can we learn from it, how do we strengthen state policies, and how about more broadly in society. And all of those have been completed, and our objective is to be nothing less than number one in America for this awful reality for survivors. I've said from the beginning, and you've asked me, you personally, and many have asked me, how do I feel about the fact that the legislature looked at this? And I've said all along, and I continue to say, as long as their process wasn't political, as long as it was whole of government, as long as it was survivor-centric, as our processes are, we welcome it. And I stand here today and would say the same thing. Again, forgive me because we're still going through the report, and believe me, if there are recommendations that we think will strengthen the processes that we've already taken, believe me, we're open-minded to that because, again, we have no less an objective to being best in the American class. I believe that the team in my office did what they believe was the right thing, and I stand behind them, and that has been the case, and that will continue to be the case. You had something, I cut you off.
From your answer just now. The legislative committee looked into this, and they looked into the folks who didn't tell you critical information. Is that a situation that if it happened again, you would be all right with?
I've said before on a number of times, I wish I had known earlier. That's not new information. But I believe with all my heart, and I say this with great conviction, that based on every data point I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them, that the folks who were in some way involved in this and our team did at every step of the way what they believed at the time was the right thing. And I believe that completely. One more, and then I think we got to let these folks get back to school.
Having said that, though, Governor, this report says they didn't do the right thing. They missed it. They botched it. So wouldn't it send, or do you believe it would send a signal if you take some kind of action, consequence, not a punishment, but to do something, to be able to, is there a reprimand, a consequence, something that sends a signal?
Again, let me repeat something I've now said twice. I'll say it a third time. I believe with all of my heart that the folks involved in this acted in the way they thought was the most responsible, adhering to their ethical and legal obligations at every step of the way, and I have no doubt about that. That's a strongly held opinion. Should we do something about it? My God, we've done gobs about this. I've just gone through tightening processes, learning from this, tightening state policy, and more broadly, and I think more importantly in society, making New Jersey, again, if you have to go through an awful experience like this, and it's kind of a weird way to say it, but if you have to go through something awful like this, New Jersey is number one in the country for on the side of the survivors in information, in support, in making sure folks know where to go in those awful dark moments where it's quite clear in the past that's not always been the case. I want to thank the Asst folks for hosting us, so thank you for allowing us to get into your hair on this day. In particular, represented by Jacinia with us. Thank you, Jacinia, for you and your fellow educators. Mayor Mac Womack, thank you so much for all you do, including hosting us today, and Council President, members of Council. Brian, to you and your team, including members of the board. Thank you for your leadership. They always ask me, when did things really turn for the good on your education policies? And I say, because I met him in Asbury Park when the big man joined the band, Dr. Lamont Repillette, and I could not be happier for him, and I can't tell you how much of a game changer this will be for those blessed 3- and 4-year-olds, not just in North Brunswick, but around the state, to have Carrie Booker running this new Department of Early Childhood Education. Thanks to each and every one of you. Thank you.